Hi guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to make these cubes. They're lovely and they're seamless, which means that, there's no extra lines besides these 12. So let's get to it, and you can use these for math or your math homework or anything, since these are pretty easy. Now we're just gonna be starting with one rectangle. First we have to cut it to one square, and normally I just cut it in this way, sort of making triangle, and only crease maybe a little bit on the tip to know your positioning, and then use your marker, your red marker, your blue marker, doesn't really matter that much, and then mark it here so we'll know where to cut it. After that, you turn the paper around, and then you fold it like this. Okay, so for the duration of this video, I'm going to be teaching you this square, but also simultaneously telling you a story, and the story's name is Rumpelstiltskin, so you guys won't really get too bored. Now we have to cut off this piece of triangle. I'm just going to be using this knife here that I've got, which is pretty handy if you're doing origami. You don't really have to cut stuff if you already have, a bunch of squares, but sure, there's always times you have to cut a rectangle into a square. Anyway, now that we have done that, we won't be needing any pens or anything. So, let's turn it this way, and start then. So what we're planning to do is kind of make a 5x5 grid out of this square. What we're going to do is just start to make reference creases, and just lots and lots of them. But all the reference creases are just for one reference crease that we have to get. Okay, so we kind of folded this edge to the other edge and made a reference crease on this side, and we're just going to be folding this edge to this reference point and to make another reference point. There you go. Then we're just going to be connecting this dot and folding it, make a reference point around there. So all of the steps before this is solely to get that mark. You can see I'm kind of just pinching here, so we'll know if we have really got to this spot. This part is a bit difficult if you're a beginner, so try to concentrate on that part. Okay, so I'm just gonna start the story of Rumpelstiltskin. Once upon a time, there was a poor miller. But this miller had one beautiful daughter. One day he came to speak with the king, and to give himself consequence, he told the king that he had one beautiful daughter, and this beautiful daughter can spin gold from straw. Anyway, we're just going to be folding along, just trying to fold a triangle, but not really. This time we're just going to be making another reference crease, cross over our last reference crease, which is around here, and there you go. We have made our final reference crease, and let's get to the hardcore folding now. So maybe you can just mark the point where these two lines intersect. Now we've got our point, we can start folding. So just watch me do it carefully. The king said, "That is an art that pleases me well. You could bring your daughter to the castle tomorrow, then I could put her to the proof." The next day, the miller's daughter came into the castle. The king said to her, at the same time leading her into a room that was full of straw. And he told her, "You must spin all the straw into gold in one night, or you will be dead by the next morning, because we're going to kill you since your dad lied about how you could spin gold from straw." Yeah, normal things like that. And then the king locked the door to the room full of straw himself. So the miller's daughter was in distress. She didn't know what to do, and she doesn't know how to spin straw from gold. To spin gold from straw, it doesn't really add up. So what she did is actually cry, as if crying is going to solve anything. But she wept and she wept until a little man actually came into the room and said, "Good evening, miller's daughter. Why are you crying?" The miller's daughter explained, "Oh, I've got to set to work to spin gold from straw, but I don't know about the business." So the little man said, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" The miller's daughter answered, "My ring." And then she gave him her ring. And the little man sat before the chair and the wheel and spindle and spun all night. Where were we? 3 times round, and 1 bobbin was full until all the bobbins was full. Then finally, the next day came. The king came to her, and he was astonished when he saw that the room was full of gold. But as he can never have enough of them, he led her into a still larger room and told her, "You must spend all of this in 1 night as well." The girl was left alone in the room yet another time. But still, she hasn't learned any of the skills from the little man. But once again, the little man came and said to her, "What will you give me this time?" The miller's daughter said, "My necklace," and gave the necklace to the little man. So the little man spun all the straw into gold for yet another time. When the king came the other day, he was rejoiced beyond measure, and he led her into a still larger room, much larger than the last, and told her finally, "If you're able to spin all the straw in this room into gold, tomorrow I will make you king." For he thought, although she is just a miller's daughter, but she is pretty, and I cannot imagine having someone richer than her in the whole world. If she could actually spin gold from straw. And that is what he is trying to prove, that she can test out if she can spin gold from straw or not. Anyway, as you can see here, we are almost finishing up with our 5x5 grid. After we make the 5x5 grid, though, it's gonna get a bit complicated, but be patient. Only the last part, the collapsing, is a bit difficult. All the other parts, not so much. Anyway, for the 3rd time, the miller's daughter was left alone in the room, and Rumpelstiltskin and the little man came for the 3rd time and said to her, "What will you give me this time?" The miller's daughter said, "I have nothing left to give, since she has already given up all the valuable stuff that she had." Then the little man said, "Then you must promise me the first child you have after you are the queen." Okay, so now what do we do? We actually kind of make 4 X's in these places. X, X, X. And how do we do that? We make some mountainfuls, which are pretty easy. Then you have to be patient to finish them. She didn't know what else to do in her necessity, so she promised the little man what he desired. The king came the next day and found all done according to his wish. So he held a wedding at once. Then the miller's pretty daughter became a queen. A year after, she had a child with the king, a pretty child, and thought no more of the little man. But one day, suddenly, the little man came into her room and said to her, but the child was only a few months old, so he didn't know, or she didn't know, anything that the little man was talking about. But the little man said, "Give me what you promised me." At this time, the queen began to lament and weep. The little man had pity upon her. So he said to her, "If you cannot find my name and tell it to me in 3 days, you have to give me the child." For he thought, it is not possible for this woman to know my name in 3 days. So the queen spent all night thinking of all the names she had ever heard ever since she was a child. And she wrote them down in a long list. Okay, you can see we have almost finished now. Then turn it around until all we see is mountain creases. Then we kind of fold, you see the center row of squares, we kind of just push it and then fold this crease, this edge to that edge. So we actually don't really crease it, you just pin it down a little bit, then we crease on the other side. Since for me, I would say that creasing on the other side is way much better since, it's a stronger and more precise fold than when you're folding in the front. But now we have to do this on the other side as well. The second day, the queen told the little man all that she could think of and repeated every name on the list. But the little man said one and another time, and 3 times, hundreds and hundreds of times, "No, that is not my name." The second day, the queen sent a messenger to inquire all the neighbors what were the servants called, and told the little man all the names that were the most singular and most weird. But after each one, the little man only repeated, "That is not my name." So you can see here, I'm just going to strengthen these folds. I mean, they are already good folds, but I'm just going to strengthen them and maybe crease a little bit more. Then the third day, she sent for a messenger to search far and wide for all the names. But the messenger came back and said, "I have not found one single new name. But as I have come across a hill, on the hill there was a house, and before the house burned a fire, and round the fire danced a comical little man." Okay, so you can see here we have already finished a really large part of it. Now it's the collapsing sequence. As I've said, you kind of compare these two to see which one is actually a bit larger than the other. In this case, I think I'm going to put this one on the top. And then we tuck this fold behind, that fold behind as well. After we have done that, we're just going to close this and maybe have a few taps on it, if you will. Now, we have to collapse it further on. Furthermore, we do this, and we do this. The inner one first, and the outer layer secondly. So anyway, you can see here, we just close it, and maybe sharpen these folds, since they were originally valley folds, but now we're turning them into mountain folds. Repeat on the other side. And danced around the fire a comical little man, and the comical little man sang a song. "Today do I bake, tomorrow I brew. The day after that the queen's child comes in, and no, I am glad that nobody knew that the name I am called is Rumpelstiltskin." You cannot think how rejoiced beyond measure that the queen was. And as soon as the little man came, she asked him, "Is your name Rumpelstiltskin?" The little man immediately became really mad and said, "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" Okay, you can see here on the cube, we have to tuck these flaps into these compartments. What we do is we cannot really tuck them in using just force, since that will crumple the paper. What we do is we kind of just curve this part of the paper and make that edge a lot more curvier, if you get what I'm saying. And kind of do the whole area. Then we can slowly tuck it in without any surprises. Now we can see here that we kind of just curve this and then tuck it right in there, as you can see. Now we just repeat on the 3 more flaps that we have here. Rumpelstiltskin was really mad. He yelled, "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" And then he stamped with his right foot so hard that it went into the ground. And then he tried to use his hands to pull the foot from the ground, but he ended up splitting in 2. And there was the end of him. So, that's the end of the story, guys. Now we have to tuck this flap in as well, and do the same on the other side. Tuck this in there, just tuck it in, nice and slowly. Hurrah, we have done this. Yeah, let's move on to the other 2 flaps. If you're a more experienced folder, I would say that these are pretty easy to use. I've learned this maybe a year ago or something, and sometimes I still have trouble tucking in the flaps. They're kind of a hard move, and in origami you don't really curve a lot of flaps to tuck them in. Not really common though, but on a normal A4 paper, I would suggest that you don't really curve it for so many times, since it's not tough at all. If you curve it for too many times, it might crumble. But if you're using elephant hind or any other hind kind of papers, I suggest that you actually do it multiple times. Anyway, after tucking the final flap in there, we should be done. So once you've folded this cube, you can use this as a die, or dice, if you may. But I don't think that will be too good, since this won't be a fair dice. If you can see here, this is the thickest part of the whole cube. So if you write the number here, let's say it's a 6, then you'll end up with this hitting the ground, and not always, but most of the times landing with a 6. That's because, well, this part, because it's thickest, it will land ground first, and then you can guess the other parts of the story tale. So anyway, with that last flap, we are good to go with our cube, and it's almost ready. If you cannot do it the first time, you probably have to curve it more and then try again. Okay then, this is the finished version of the cube. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.